So the new Bose Soundlink Flex is a great portable Bluetooth speaker from Bose that quite frankly just sounds way better than its direct competitors, the JBL Flip 5 and Sony XB23. However, the Bose Flex does have a price premium to it, and at first glance you might assume that the Flex's direct competitors are really the JBL Charge 5 and XB33, but you're really not. Nonetheless, if you want to know how the Bose Flex stacks up to the Charge 5 and XB33, then this is the video for you. Now, regarding pricing, both the Bose Flex and Sony XB33 have a retail price of $150, whereas the JBL Charge 5 has a retail price of $170. So, the Bose Flex has Charge 5 and XB33 pricing, but it has Flip 5 and XB23 performance. However, both the JBL and Sony do like to go on sale on a regular basis. Nonetheless, if you want to pick any of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch shelf down below. I've made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know I can be very particular. So I'll only set my name on something that I'm really proud of. Now first, let's talk about the design of these speakers. The Flex is around the same size as the Charge 5 and XB33, so all of these speakers are portable and you can easily throw them into your backpack. But all of these speakers are considerably larger than, let's say, your JBL Flip 5. Now when it comes to materials, the Flex has a silicone wrap body and powder coat steel grille on the front. And the use of silicone and steel on the speaker not only makes it very durable, it also feels very premium. Whereas these other two speakers have a mostly fabric wrap body. Now there's nothing wrong with a fabric wrap body, but the silicone and steel on the Flex just feels nice. And when it comes to overall durability, all of these speakers check off the same boxes. They're all dustproof and they're all waterproof. However, one small detail that we do have to address on these speakers design-wise is the light feature on the XB33. I think it looks decent and it's nice to have, but obviously please don't make a speaker purchasing decision solely on their light feature. And keep in mind, if you do decide to use this light feature, it is going to chew into your overall battery life. Now, when it comes to battery life, the Bose Flex has an advertised battery life of 12 hours. And just given the speaker's sheer size, I really wish the speaker had a 20-hour battery life or at the very least a 15-hour battery life. Nonetheless, with the speaker playing at 80% volume, it's good for about 8 hours of playback time, which is not bad at all. But for comparison's sake, the Charge 5 has an advertised battery life of 20 hours, and with it playing at 80% volume, the speaker is good for around 10 hours of playback time. And keep in mind, when the Charge 5 is playing at 80% volume, it is noticeably louder than the 80% volume on the Bose Flex. And then there's the XB33, which has an advertised battery life of 24 hours, but that's with the speaker playing at 50% volume with its light feature turned off and while in stamina mode, which quite frankly just makes this speaker sound very flat. Whereas if you were to use this speaker with its light feature turned on and with its extra bass mode turned on as well, which is how you should be using the speaker, then the speaker has an advertised battery life of 14 hours. So, real-world use with the speaker playing at 80% volume with the light feature turned on and with extra bass mode turned on, the speakers go for about 7 hours of playback time. However, you can always extend the battery life of the speaker if you were to use it with this light feature turned off. Now, when it comes to charging these speakers, they all charge via a USB-C port as they should. However, both the Charge 5 and XB33 have USB-A out ports, so that you can charge your own devices. Now personally, I think it's great and all that both the Charge 5 and XB33 have USB-A out ports, but I do think these ports are going to become obsolete in the near future, because most phones these days now just come included with USB-C charging cables. And unfortunately, you can't use any of these USB-C ports to charge your own devices, and you also can't use them as a wired connection. And I also got to point out that none of these speakers have an audio jack, and unfortunately, this is the norm now. Now, personally, I don't really mind that these speakers don't have an audio jack, but I still feel that these speakers should have an audio jack just in case, especially the Charge 5, just given its rather impressive speaker setup. But when it comes to wireless connectivity, all of these speakers can be simultaneously connected to two devices at the same time. So you can either easily hot swap from one device to another, regardless of operating system, which is great for power users, or you and a friend can both be DJ. And when it comes to performance, all of these speakers have zero latency across the board when watching movies or videos on your phone, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device. But now let's talk about actually listening to music with these speakers. Regarding speaker setups, the Bose Flex has a single front-firing transducer and a pair of passive radiators that shoots out the front and back of the speaker. The Sony XB33 has your fairly common setup of dual transducers that shoot out the front and dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. But then there's the Charge 5, whose setup is a little different. The Charge 5 has a single front-firing transducer which handles the mids. It also has a single tweeter which handles the highs, and then you've got your dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. But now we're going to jump into the sound test. All of these speakers are playing with their stock EQ. However, when it comes to volume, the XB33 is playing at 94% volume, the Flex is playing at 87% volume, and the Charge 5 is just coasting here at 75% volume.
Let me go, it's my time. Watch me build another life. Find another space. Explore the world and find my place. Hope you find some peace of mind. Hope the night was worth your time. Threw my heart away. We won't see another day. We both know the score. We've been here once before. So many words unspoken. You took my heart, it's already broken. You don't have to wait. I can take the pain. I will surrender, let me go. It's a new adventure. On the new adventure. You'll find me dancing on my own. Nowhere to be, nowhere to go. In the rhythm, I don't think of you. Don't call me up when you're feeling blue. You'll find me dancing on my own. Nowhere to be, nowhere to go. In the rhythm, I don't think of you. Let me go. It's a new adventure. On the new adventure.
So unfortunately, I am going to have to say that the XB33 does struggle to keep up here. Performance-wise, this thing is playing at 94% volume, but also from a sound quality standpoint, the speaker does sound the most narrow here. It sounds fine, but the Bose and JBL do sound better. Now, when it comes to instrument separation, I gotta say the Bose and JBL sound very open, and I think that is very impressive given that the Bose doesn't have a dedicated tweeter like the JBL. However, one knock that I do have against the Bose when compared to the JBL is that the treble on the Bose is raised up a little more, whereas the JBL sounds more balanced. Overall, the Bose Flex does give the JBL Charge 5 a real run for its money when it comes to sound quality, but performance-wise, the JBL Charge 5 is going to get noticeably louder and have more bass than the Bose Flex. Just remember, the Bose Flex was playing at 87% volume, whereas the Charge 5 was just coasting at 75% volume. Now, even though I think both the Bose Flex and Charge 5 sound great just the way they are, I think it's important to point out that these speakers don't have an adjustable EQ, whereas the XB33 does. So if you're someone that wants to tune your speaker to your liking, then you might want to take that into consideration. But now let's talk about pairing this speaker up with other speakers. The Bose Flex is a Soundlink speaker, meaning that you can wirelessly pair it up to one other Bose Soundlink speaker and either get them to play in sync or you can get them to play in left and right stereo mode. And you don't have to have two of these same models. Now, the easiest way to pair your speakers together is through Bose's Connect app. Or if you have one of Bose's smart soundbars or smart speakers, you can still pair a Flex up to them through Bose's music app using SimpleSync. So even though you can't pair like 5 Flexes together, Bose does give you a relatively good amount of flexibility if you've already invested into the Bose ecosystem. And I'm just putting it out there because I know it's not related. I still absolutely love my Bose Smart Soundbar 300. It's a ridiculous name, but that thing is actually pretty sick. However, when compared to the JBL Charge 5 and Sony XB33, with the Charge 5, you can pair it up to other JBL Party Boost speakers, like either a Boombox 2, Extreme 3, Charge 5, JBL Flip 5, or a JBL Pulse 4. And you can pair up to 100 speakers together, which is definitely overkill. And personally, I do feel that JBL has the best speaker pairing protocol out there. It's just super easy to use, and it just works. And you also have a decent range of speakers to choose from. Now, with the Sony, you can also pair up to 100 speakers together, and with the XB33, you can either pair it up to an XG500, Sony XB43, Sony XB33, or a Sony XB23. And if you're feeling really adventurous, you can even pair your XB33 up to some of Sony's larger box speakers, like either a Sony XP700 or Sony XP500. Now, personally, I don't really know why you would want to do this, but with Sony, you can. However, personally, I feel that Sony doesn't have the best speaker pairing protocol out there. Sometimes it does take a while for all of your speakers to pair up together. Sometimes not all of your speakers will pair up on the first try, and sometimes you will experience some skipping. But finally, here's the microphone test. Now, the Flex is about 4 feet away from me and is facing directly at me. So I do feel that this is a very fair representation as to what to expect in real life. Now, the only other speaker here that also has a built-in microphone is the Sony XB33. The Charge 5 does not have a built-in microphone. Now, personally, I really wouldn't bother trying to take phone calls with either of these speakers because you're just going to sound pretty bad. Personally, I do feel that the built-in microphones in these speakers is really just for interacting with your voice assistant.
But with all that being said, the Bose Flex is definitely a solid speaker that really sounds great. However, this speaker does carry a price premium to it. Now, I think the Bose Flex does justify its price tag because sound quality wise, it does punch above its weight class, and its silicone and steel body makes it feel very premium. However, if you're thinking about getting the Bose Flex, I think you should still consider going with the JBL Charge 5 because you are going to get better performance out of it and you are going to get a noticeably better battery life. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know, I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something that I'm really proud of.